Hello everyone, my name is Eric Frohardt with Rost Martin, and today we're going to do a basic firearms lesson. All right, the next fundamental we're going to talk about today is the trigger control. That's how we either squeeze or press the trigger. Shooting a gun is really this simple. We want to align our sights or get an acceptable sight picture, and then we want to squeeze or press that trigger. And while doing that, we don't want that sight picture to change. So everything we're doing from the ground up with our stance, with our grip and our body position and everything we're doing, all we're trying to do is move that trigger without moving where the gun is pointed. Now, anyone can get a good sight picture on a target, and anyone can squeeze a trigger. The challenge is, can you do them both at the same time? Can we have the gun pointed at the target with a good sight picture and move that trigger, squeeze or press, without that sight picture moving too much, without our hands moving too much? And that's the challenge. A couple of things that will help us, obviously with a grip, as long as we're not over gripping with this hand, we can move this trigger finger more independently. When we squeeze this hand too tightly, it really serves to connect every one of these bones down here. And the tighter I squeeze, the more they're connected. And when they're connected and I try to move this finger, I'm going to exaggerate, these fingers will move. And in doing so, as a right-handed shooter, my misses will tend to be low and to the left. So if anyone's low and to the left, I'm generally guessing that they're over gripping with their right hand. The other thing we want to do, in addition to having an independent trigger squeeze, and all I mean by that is that this finger is moving independently of these three. I want to shift from what I call a two-stage trigger press to a three-stage trigger press. And all I mean by that is, instead of like what most people do, they're going to present the gun, right? They're going to line the sights and squeeze or press the trigger. So that's two steps: sight, squeeze, sight, press, sight, squeeze. Again, whichever one you prefer. I'm going to shift people, I'm trying to shift people from a two-stage to a three-stage process. So what we're going to do in shifting from a two-step process to a three-step process is, again, I'm going to come up, I align the sights, I'm going to find tension on the trigger, right, or take up that slack. Then I'm going to check my sight alignment, and then I'm going to finish the squeeze. I'm not taking up slack on the trigger, and I'm not finding tension on that trigger until I've actually decided to shoot. And it seems like this might take longer than sight squeeze, sight squeeze. You can train to do this as fast as a two-step process and be much more accurate. All we're really doing is we're tricking ourselves into maintaining sight alignment throughout a shorter distance of travel and with less force exerted on the trigger. And we'll demonstrate that really quick. Again, for the purposes of this exercise, targets are down there, but we have a berm over here, so that's a safe direction. Gonna clear and safe it a couple of times. Gun is clear. Again, remembering my grip and my stance, I'm gonna remove this hand so that you can actually see it. And what I'm doing now, I have an acceptable sight picture. I've decided to shoot. I'm finding tension on the trigger, right? See, I've come to that stop point. I'm checking the sight, whether it's a dot or the front sight, and then I'm finishing the squeeze. Again, it'll reset. I'm finding tension, check sight, squeeze. Find tension, check sight, press. Find tension, check sight, squeeze, and on and on. Now, as far as the trigger finger placement, you'll hear a lot of different things. Some people just want to have a pad, a finger pad on the trigger. Some people will bury it a little further. Some people might even bury it to that knuckle. I'm not tied to any one of those. I like to say you have options. It depends on how big your hand is. It depends on the width, I guess, or the depth, rather, of the backstrap and the grip, and where your hand naturally falls on that trigger. I've gone times where I've only done it on the pad, right? And then I've gone times where I've gone a little bit deeper. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. I would say give both of them a try. and it may change from gun to gun. Whatever you rep and feel comfortable with, use that method.